I'll wait for everybody to make it back in. Are people going to make it back in? I sure hope so. Oh, we got some people who are making it back in. My apologies. I have no idea what happened with Facebook, but they just all of a sudden it just shut down. So let's finish with this thought. So let's say that something happened and you got this disease. You know that if you get this cure, that 100% chance that you are going to survive it and you're going to thrive and you're going to get past it. But the cure costs $100,000. Now, here's the deal is that if they told you, hey, 100% chance you're going to die in 6 months, but 100% chance if you get this cure, you are going to live and you're going to have a thriving life and you'll get past this. But the problem is that the cure isn't covered in your HMO, which means that you're going to have to come out of pocket $100,000. You know as well as I do, if that happens to you, there's no way that you're going to be like, you know what, that's not really going to fit into the budget. You're not gonna say that. If they say, it's going to be $100,000, you're like, let me think about it. I need to go home and just think about this decision. I'm not ready to make a decision on this. Do you go home and you're like, you know what, my life's not really worth that much. I think that I'm just going to pass. It's kind of unfair, and I'm just going to cut my losses or whatever. No, the reality is that every one of us, you're going to do the same thing that I would. Is that you're going to say the importance, what I'm fighting for, what is most important in my life is going to rise to the surface. And not only am I going to be recalibrated with what is most important, but the creative juices are going to come into play. You know what happens is that conviction takes over in your life about whatever is most important. And when you make a decision about what is most important in your life, what ends up happening, and this is what happens when your life is on the line, when there are no other options except to live, the reality is that you've seen it time and time again. The people who created GoFundMe, or they get creative. How is it possible when they've never seen $100,000 in their entire life, definitely not in a lump sum, that with back against the wall, all of a sudden the creative juices and everything flows towards that thing and here's the reason why. It's because what was most important actually came to the surface and they made a decision on it. See, because it's not enough to just know what is most important, because it takes conviction and it also takes courage. It means that if we want to have lives that are very different, it means that you've got to quit. You've got to quit living small. You've got to quit pushing down the things that matter the most to you and actually live into it. Listen, there's no other excuses. Only you get to make these kinds of choices over your life. So what you've got to do, and this is what I would encourage you over the next couple of days, because I don't think that this is all the time like an overnight kind of deal that we come to these things. For me, usually when I start asking people what are the things that are most important, a lot of times people are so out of touch with it. But here's the thing: is that if you do not know what's most important to you, then it's always going to make decision making terrible for you. If you don't know what's most important to you and what you're fighting for, then you're always going to be settling for less. And here's the other thing that I know. If you are dissatisfied in your life right now, if you feel like that you have been settling, you've been living short, you've stopped short of success and some of those other kinds of things, what I know is that somewhere along the line you allowed something else to come up and rise in importance. And that's a killer. That's the most painful place to live in your life, when you know in the deepest place of your heart what you are called to, what matters most, and that you're not living into it. So, over the next few weeks, what I'm going to unpack for you are a few things. One is we're going to talk about what are the things that are actually standing in the way. What are the real barriers? What is the opponent that you have not taken out right now that keeps standing in the way? What's the dragon? What's the giant that needs to be killed that is getting in the way? And we're going to talk about time, but we're going to talk about time in a different way than you guys have ever heard. I understand this whole thing about smart goals and accountability and all that other stuff because it's what we do as coaches. That is absolutely what we do. But the reality is that most people can't think in terms of years. Matter of fact, most people, if they have to wait on their Amazon package to show up past 2 days, you think that this is an eternity waiting on something. Like, what is going on? Why is this not moving fast enough? Well, that's what we want to understand is how can we string together success in a short amount of time? Like, I really believe that a lot of change can happen in a short amount of time if you actually know what is most important and the conviction is there that you will actually make choices and be bold about those things, then we can see change happen really, really quickly. I want us to string together the best year that's absolutely possible. I want you to walk away from this year. And here's what I really believe about this year. There's something in me in this year, and I knew last year was going to be a challenging year in a lot of ways. I kind of felt it as we were in the beginning of the year of some of the things that we were going to be up against. But if we could not be moved emotionally, if we could actually just take uh, you know take stock of where we're at and grab a hold of an opportunity that you can make a negative into a positive or whatever. There was a lot of that going on. I really believe that this year is going to be one of the most prosperous, hopeful, joyful years that we have ever seen. For some of us, we actually needed a 2020 to actually bottom things out so that we could actually think about, I don't want that kind of life to come back again. There are things that we learned last year that we do not want in our story again. And we don't want a repeat of the story that many of us have been living for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And it is a time to say, hey, you know what? I'm unsatisfied. It is completely okay to be unsatisfied. It is completely a spiritual thing to have divine discontent when you know that you are called for something more. And it is possible to get more life into 1 year than many of you have been living in a string of decades. I'm completely convinced of that. How do I know that? Well, I can remember some years ago when my wife, her grandfather, he was on the brink of death, and the family was kind of like coming around because they knew that it was kind of like the end. And something switched on in him. There was some kind of vitality that not only switched on, and I'm being intentionally vague about part of this story because we got to have a role in that part of his life. But here's what I can tell you is that he had already been given his papers that he was going to expire in about 90 days. Next thing you know is that the guy goes back to the doctor and he's completely cancer free. I mean, he went from 3 months to live to being cancer free, and he's almost 80 years old. But the life that he lived in his 80s was much better than the life that he had lived in all the decades before. And I don't mean that in a way to say that he lived a bad life before. He lived a great life before, but I'm saying that he lived an amazing life from that stage on. I remember he went out and he was buying books on what is my life's purpose and everything else. And if you met the guy, personality wise and everything else, it was a transformation that happened in his life. Now, he ended up dying some years later, but the way that he died was a much better ending than what it would have been a few years before. And it was all because of that moment and what he actually did with it. And I think that we can string together an extraordinary year this year. And I think that we can all do that together. Here's where I'm at this year is I'm going to give more and I'm going to pour in more than I ever have in my life. And I'm asking those heart questions of, hey, what are the things that are missing from me that's keeping me from living into the greatest life that's possible? You know, uh, obviously, for all of us who are sitting here, right? We've all we've all slain some giants in the past, right? We've killed some dragons, and we are better than we were before. But all of us would have to say, me included, that none of us have arrived. None of us have even scratched the potential that we are here for. I think that we can all agree on that. But living into your potential and living into this kind of life that we're actually created for starts with a choice. First of all, find out what's most important. Secondly, live this life today based on what is most important. Based on I've just got a few more days left to live. Allow that to inform the resourcefulness. Throw the fear out the window. Throw the junk and the barriers. Listen, we're going to go after those things. Next week is all going to be about the opponents that you're going to be facing and how we've got to conquer those things and what does it actually take. But I'm encouraging every one of you, find out what's most important. When I do that with people on a one-on-one basis, some of the questions I start to ask are, hey, you think of the most important decisions that you've made in your life, and what were the things that informed that decision? What were the things that were right there that informed you to actually making that life-altering decision? You'll start finding out what are the things that are the most important. And it can't just be based on what would I regret. There's got to be something more. Like, you've got to ask the question of, what are the things that keep you up at night? What are your soapbox issues? What are the things that you would fight for? Listen, what would you die for? That's the most important question. Because if something's not worth dying for, it's not worth living for either. So thank you guys for making it back into the room. I appreciate you guys all a ton. And thankfully, we were able to get back into the room. I have no idea what Facebook did to us a while ago and YouTube, but I'm thankful we're back. We'll try to take this video and maybe combine it or something like that. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Let me say hello to a few more people. Yolanda was back, and yeah, everybody, you made it back. I appreciate you guys all a ton for spending the evening with us. And let's see, what does Santos say? Greetings from Stockton. Thank you, Paul, for such a transparent message that really penetrates the fibers of your soul when it's talking about life and death. Thank you. You're so welcome. Awesome. Well, very cool. Listen, I appreciate you guys all a ton. Do me a huge favor. Stay in touch with me. You can message me on Facebook. You can throw comments on here. If you've got a video that you want to shoot, that you want to share something that you're working on. Listen, we're all ears over here, because we're not just a life coach training school. I mean, that's what I do, but we're all about changing the world. This is why we're in the business. It never stopped being transforming people's lives. I know that's why you want to do it. It's not just about the money. Yeah, the money's great and all of those other kinds of things, but the money actually represents what your gift to the world is. It's time to actually live that. So listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Oh, and there's Jerry saying, I just got certified. Oh, way to go, Jerry. Awesome. That's so good. All right, everyone. Well, I'm going to head out. Do us a huge favor. Like, share this if it was beneficial to you. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Those things kind of happen. But you know what? We'll be back next week. And again, we're an email away, or message us. Tell us how we can partner with you in this thing, how we can be an encouragement. This is going to be an amazing year, and we're all going to crush it together. Best year ever. It's coming. Have a great one. Take care.